Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Prescription for Truth. Alexander Whitehead sat in the leather passenger seat of his Mercedes, staring at the crumpled note in his trembling hands. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of Dr. Raymond's clinic, but Alex felt nothing but cold dread washing over him. Your wife was here. File for divorce now. The handwriting was hurried, desperate. Alex looked back at the clinic where he'd just completed his annual physical. Dr. Tim Barry had been his physician for 15 years, but today something had been different. The usually jovial doctor had seemed distracted, avoiding eye contact, rushing through the examination with uncharacteristic haste. Everything looks fine, Dr. Barry had said, his voice strained. But as Alex was leaving, the nurse, Janine Collier, a woman he'd known for over a decade, had slipped the folded paper into his hand with a meaningful look. Alex's vision blurred as the implications hit him. Desiree, his wife of 12 years, the woman he'd built an empire with, the mother of their 2 children, the woman he'd trusted with everything. His phone buzzed. A text from Desiree. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Love you. The words felt like acid in his chest. Alexander Whitehead wasn't a man who broke easily. At 42, he'd built Whitehead Construction from nothing into a multi-million-dollar company. He'd survived his father's abandonment at 8, his mother's death at 19, and countless business battles that would have destroyed weaker men. But this felt different. He started the engine, his hands steady despite the storm in his mind. Whatever Desiree was planning, whatever had spooked Dr. Barry enough to risk his medical license, Alex would find out. And when he did, she would learn that Alexander Whitehead was not a man to be underestimated. 20 minutes later, Alex pulled into the circular driveway of their sprawling colonial home in Riverside Heights. The house stood as a testament to their success. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a 3-car garage, and enough land to provide privacy from prying neighbors. He'd bought it as a surprise for their 5th anniversary, remembering how Desiree had cried with joy. Now, as he looked at the pristine facade, he wondered how long those tears had been lies. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. Their children, Emma, 10, and Michael, 8, were at his sister's for the week, a summer tradition that suddenly felt convenient for whatever Desiree had planned. Alex moved through the house like a man seeing it for the first time. In his study, he poured 3 fingers of bourbon and sat behind his mahogany desk, the notes spread before him. His mind, sharpened by years of reading contracts and spotting deception in business deals, began to work. Why would Dr. Barry risk everything to warn him? What had Desiree discussed during her visit? And most importantly, what was she planning that required him to file for divorce immediately? The clock on his desk showed 6:47 p.m. Desiree wouldn't be home until after midnight if her pattern held true. That gave him time to think, to plan, to prepare for whatever storm was coming. Alex opened his laptop and began to type, his fingers moving with purpose. If Desiree Whitehead thought she could blindside the man who'd built an empire from nothing, she was about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating Alexander Whitehead. Chapter 2. Unraveling Threads. The next morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Desiree hummed while making coffee, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her smile bright as summer. She wore a burgundy dress that hugged her curves, the same dress Alex had bought her for their anniversary last year. "Sleep well?" she asked, kissing his cheek. Her perfume, once intoxicating, now smelled cloying. Like a baby, Alex lied, knowing he'd spent the night researching divorce laws and asset protection. "You were quiet coming in. Didn't want to wake you. The Henderson Project is killing me." She sighed dramatically. "Honestly, sometimes I think about just walking away from it all." Alex watched her performance over his coffee cup. Desiree worked as an interior designer, a career she'd built after they married. Successful enough to be independent, not successful enough to walk away from his millions without consequence. "Maybe you should," he said carefully. "Take a break. We could travel." Something flickered in her eyes. Panic? Calculation? "Oh, you know I can't. Too many commitments." After she left for work, Alex made his first call. Whitehead Construction, this is Sergio Meyer, his security chief answered. Sergio, I need you at the house. Personal matter. Sergio Meyer had worked for Alex for 8 years, ever since leaving the police force under circumstances they'd never discussed. The man was built like a linebacker, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a loyalty that Alex had earned through respect rather than money. On my way, boss. While waiting, Alex called his lawyer, Ross Tate, a shark in an expensive suit who'd helped him navigate countless business deals. Ross, I need you to prepare something for me. Quietly. What are we talking about? A prenup enforcement. Maybe divorce proceedings. And Ross, I need you to look into Dr. Timothy Barry. See if he's had any malpractice issues, financial problems, anything that might make him vulnerable to pressure. Ross was quiet for a moment. Alex, what's going on? I'm not sure yet, but when I figure it out, I want to be ready. Sergio arrived 30 minutes later, his presence filling the foyer. What do you need? Alex handed him a photo of Desiree. I need to know where she goes, who she sees, what she does. Everything. And I need it done without her knowing. Sergio studied the photo, then Alex's face. How deep you want me to go? As deep as necessary. Start with her office, but don't limit yourself there. This about the note? Alex's head snapped up. What note? Boss, I've been doing security for your family for 8 years. I know Janine Collier. She's my cousin. She called me this morning, worried sick about what she did yesterday. The pieces clicked. She told you. Enough. Said your wife came to see Dr. Barry 3 days ago. Not for a medical appointment. She threatened him. Said if he didn't help her, she'd file a malpractice suit that would destroy him. Alex felt ice in his veins. Help her with what? That's what we need to find out. But Janine said your wife left with some kind of paperwork. Medical records, maybe something else. Give me everything. Phone records, bank statements, credit card bills. I want to know every breath she's taken for the past 6 months. Sergio nodded grimly. Consider it done. But boss, if she's planning what I think she might be planning. What? You better move fast. Whatever she's got cooking, it's probably happening soon. As Sergio left, Alex's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Mr. Whitehead? The voice was shaky, elderly. This is Dr. Barry. We need to talk. Chapter 3. The Doctor's Confession. They met at a diner 40 miles outside the city, a place where neither man would be recognized. Dr. Barry looked like he'd aged years since yesterday, his usually steady hands shaking as he stirred sugar into his coffee. I should lose my license for this, he said without preamble. Tell me what happened. Dr. Barry exhaled heavily. Your wife came to see me 3 days ago. Not as a patient, as a threat. She had photos. What kind of photos? Me and a former patient. Sandra Valentine. It was years ago, after my divorce. Sandra was struggling with depression, needed someone to talk to. One thing led to another. He looked up miserably. It was completely inappropriate. I ended it after 2 weeks, but your wife somehow found out. Alex felt a piece of the puzzle click into place. She was blackmailing you. She wanted me to falsify your medical records. Said you've been experiencing symptoms, memory loss, confusion, paranoia. She wanted documentation that would support a claim of early-onset dementia or mental instability. The coffee cup cracked in Alex's grip. She wanted me declared incompetent. It gets worse. She also wanted me to prescribe you medication, antipsychotics that would actually cause the symptoms she wanted documented. Said she'd been crushing them into your food for weeks. The room spun. Alex thought about the headaches, the occasional dizziness he'd attributed to stress. Jesus Christ. I refused at first, but she showed me the photos, said she'd destroy my practice, my reputation. I have grandchildren, Mr. Whitehead. I couldn't, but you did refuse. That's why Janine warned me. Dr. Barry nodded. I gave her the falsified records yesterday, but I couldn't go through with the medication part. That's when Janine stepped in. She said she couldn't watch me destroy an innocent man. Alex's phone buzzed. A text from Sergio. Found something. Meet me at the office. Now. Dr. Barry, I need you to write down everything you just told me. Every detail. And I need copies of whatever you gave my wife. I can't. You can and you will. Because if you don't help me stop this, What happens next will make losing your license look like a parking ticket. 30 minutes later, Alex burst into his construction office. Sergio was waiting with a laptop and a grim expression. "Boss, your wife's been busy. Look at this." The laptop screen showed a bank account Alex had never seen before. Desiree's name was on it, along with someone else's, Wesley Wilcox. Who's Wesley Wilcox? Paralegal at the law firm of Bright and Associates. Apparently, he's been helping your wife prepare for something big. Look at the deposits. Alex scanned the numbers. Over the past 6 months, Desiree had been moving money, small amounts from her joint accounts, cash from her business, even taking out personal loans. The total was approaching $200,000. "There's more," Sergio continued. "I ran surveillance on her office today. She never went there. Instead, she met with this guy. He pulled up a photo of a man in his 30s, lean and well-dressed, getting into a car with Desiree. Wesley Wilcox. The very same. And here's the kicker. I followed them to a storage unit on the east side. They were moving boxes. Lots of them." Alex stared at the evidence, his mind racing. The falsified medical records, the secret bank account, the mysterious storage unit. Desiree wasn't just planning to leave him. She was planning to destroy him. "Sergio, I need you to find out everything about this Wesley Wilcox. Background, financials, weaknesses. Everything. Already on it. Boss, there's something else. I ran a background check on your wife's recent activities. 3 weeks ago, she met with a private investigator named Clayton Knapp. Guy's got a reputation for playing dirty. The picture was becoming clearer, and it was uglier than Alex had imagined. His wife hadn't just fallen out of love with him. She'd been planning his systematic destruction for months. But Alexander Whitehead hadn't built an empire by backing down from fights. As he looked at the evidence spread before him, a cold smile spread across his face. "Sergio, how do you feel about turning the tables on some very bad people?" "Boss, I thought you'd never ask." Chapter 4. The Art of War. The storage unit was located in an industrial district where questions weren't asked and security cameras were conveniently broken. Alex and Sergio sat in an unmarked van at 2 a.m., watching the facility through night vision scopes. "Motion sensor on Unit 247, Sergio whispered. "Someone's coming." A black sedan pulled up, and 2 figures emerged, Desiree and Wesley Wilcox. Even in the green glow of night vision, Alex could see their body language, intimate, familiar. They moved like lovers who'd been together for months. "How long do you think this has been going on?" Alex asked. "Based on the financial records? At least a year, maybe longer." They watched as Desiree and Wesley entered the storage unit. Lights spilled out, illuminating stacks of boxes and filing cabinets. "They're not just stealing your money," Sergio observed. "They're building a case against you. Look." Through the open door, they could see Wesley photographing documents while Desiree organized files. It was methodical, professional. "We need to see what's in there," Alex said. "I've got a better idea. Remember that private investigator your wife hired? Clayton Knapp. What about him? I had a chat with him today. Turns out, Mr. Knapp has some expensive gambling debts. The kind that get people's legs broken if they don't pay up." Alex turned to look at his security chief. "You bought him?" "For the low price of $50,000 and a promise to clear his debts. Mr. Knapp was very eager to tell me what your wife hired him to do." Sergio pulled out a manila folder. "She wanted dirt on you. Business irregularities, affairs, anything that could be used in a divorce proceeding. Problem is, you're cleaner than a whistle." So she told him to manufacture evidence. Jesus. Gets better. She also had him investigate your business partners, your employees, anyone with access to your finances. She was looking for someone she could frame for embezzlement. Alex felt a chill. "Who?" "Your CFO, Ricardo Sampson. Apparently, he's got a sick daughter, mounting medical bills. Easy target for a frame job." Ricardo Sampson had worked for Alex for 6 years. The man was honest to a fault, devoted to his family, the kind of employee who'd work weekends without complaint. The thought of Desiree destroying his life as collateral damage in her scheme made Alex's blood boil. "Where's Ricardo now?" "I called him in. He's at the office, working on those Henderson Project financials your wife keeps talking about." Alex's phone rang. The number made his stomach clench. It was Desiree. Where are you? Her voice was honey over steel. Home. Working in the study. Where are you? Office. The Henderson project is driving me crazy. In the background, Alex could hear Wesley's voice, though not the words. When will you be home? Probably not until morning. This deadline is killing me. Alex looked at Sergio, who was grinning in the darkness. Okay, baby. Don't work too hard. Love you, she said, and the line went dead. She's good, Sergio admitted. If I didn't know better, I'd believe her myself. That's what makes this so perfect, Alex said. She thinks she's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But she made one critical mistake. What's that? She assumed I was the same man who married her 12 years ago. The trusting fool who believed the best in people. Alex's voice was cold steel. She doesn't know what I've become. They drove back to the office in silence, Alex's mind working through possibilities. By the time they arrived, he had the beginnings of a plan. Ricardo Sampson was hunched over his computer, surrounded by coffee cups and financial statements. At 35, he looked older, worn down by worry about his daughter's medical bills. When Alex appeared, Ricardo looked up with tired eyes. Mr. Whitehead, I wasn't expecting you this late. Ricardo, we need to talk. About your daughter, about Desiree, and about someone who's trying to destroy both our lives. For the next hour, Alex laid out everything he discovered. Ricardo's face went through shock, anger, and finally determination. What do you need me to do? I need you to help me give them exactly what they want, Alex said. And when they take the bait, we're going to destroy them all. Chapter 5. The Perfect Frame. The Henderson Project files contained 3 years of financial records for Alex's largest commercial development, a $50 million shopping complex that had made Whitehead Construction a regional powerhouse. To most people, the files looked like standard accounting records. To someone planning a frame job, they were a gold mine of opportunity. She's been setting this up for months, Ricardo said, pointing to discrepancies he'd found. Look at these invoices. They're legitimate, but she's been making copies with altered amounts. Small changes, 5% here, 10% there. Alex studied the doctor paperwork. She plans to claim I've been skimming money and you've been helping me hide it. It's actually clever, Sergio admitted grudgingly. With a falsified medical record from Dr. Barry, she can claim you've been mentally unstable and making poor business decisions. The embezzlement charges would explain where the money went. And Ricardo takes the fall as my accomplice, Alex finished. She gets everything in the divorce. Ricardo goes to prison, and I end up in a mental health facility. There's more, Ricardo said grimly. I found evidence that someone's been accessing our system remotely. They've been downloading files for weeks. Alex's computer chimed with an incoming email. The sender was Wesley Wilcox, but the message was clearly from Desiree. Darling, I've been thinking about our future. Maybe it's time for a change. I've made some discoveries about the business that concern me. We should talk when you get home. She's moving to the end game, Sergio observed. Good, Alex said. So are we. Over the next 48 hours, Alex orchestrated his counterstrike with military precision. The first phase involved Clayton Knapp, the private investigator Sergio had bought. Knapp met them at a warehouse on the outskirts of town, nervous energy radiating from his thin frame. Look, I don't want any trouble. I just need to clear my debts. No trouble, Alex assured him. Just tell me exactly what my wife asked you to do. She wanted me to plant evidence in your business accounts. Make it look like you've been moving money to offshore accounts. She gave me bank routing numbers, transaction dates, the whole package. Did you do it? Not yet. She said to wait for her signal. Alex smiled. Clayton, I want you to go ahead and plant that evidence. Exactly as she asked. Knapp looked confused. But, trust me, and when she calls you tomorrow, I want you to tell her you found something else. Something that will make her very, very happy. The second phase involved Dr. Barry. The doctor had been a nervous wreck since their diner meeting, but Alex needed him functional for a few more days. I want you to call my wife, Alex instructed. Tell her you've completed the medication protocol she requested. Say I've been showing increased symptoms of confusion and paranoia. But that's not true. Exactly. That's what makes it perfect. The final phase was the most dangerous. Alex called Wesley Wilcox directly. Mr. Wilcox? This is Alexander Whitehead. I think we need to have a conversation. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the shit, Wesley. I know about the storage unit, the bank account, and my wife's plans. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to meet me tomorrow night at the Riverside Hotel bar. Alone. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'm going to the State Bar Association with evidence of your involvement in fraud and blackmail. Your paralegal license will be the least of your worries. Another pause. What do you want? To make you an offer you can't refuse. That evening, Alex sat in his study, watching Desiree through the doorway as she prepared dinner. She hummed while she worked, occasionally glancing at him with what looked like genuine affection. The performance was flawless. You seem happy tonight, he observed. Just thinking about our future, she said, echoing the email she'd sent. Sometimes change can be good, don't you think? Absolutely. In fact, I've been making some changes of my own. Something flickered in her eyes. Oh, I've decided to take your advice about the Henderson project. I'm going to step back, let Ricardo handle more of the day-to-day operations. That's wonderful. You work too hard. As they ate dinner, Alex watched his wife of 12 years, searching for any sign of the woman he'd once loved. All he saw was a stranger wearing a familiar face, playing a role in a drama that was about to reach its explosive conclusion. Desiree, he said softly, yes. Do you remember our wedding day? You said you'd never hurt me, no matter what happened between us. Her smile was radiant and completely false. Of course I remember, and I meant every word. Alex nodded, cutting another piece of steak. Good. I'm going to hold you to that. Chapter 6, The Devil's Bargain. The Riverside Hotel bar was dimly lit, filled with the kind of people who minded their own business. Alex sat in a corner booth, nursing a whiskey and watching Wesley Wilcox fidget with his martini. The younger man was trying to project confidence, but sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning. So, Wesley began, what exactly do you think you know? Alex placed a manila folder on the table. I know you've been sleeping with my wife for over a year. I know about the storage unit, the falsified documents, and the plan to have me declared mentally incompetent. I know about Clayton Knapp and the evidence he's about to plant in my business accounts. Wesley's face went pale. You can't prove any of that. Can't I? Alex opened the folder, revealing photographs of Wesley and Desiree together, bank statements showing their joint account, and copies of the forged medical records. I can prove all of it. What do you want? Information. I want to know the timeline, the end game, and who else is involved. Wesley drained his martini in one gulp. You're out of your mind if you think I'm going to. Let me stop you right there, Alex interrupted. I've spent the last 2 days learning everything about you, Wesley. 28 years old, graduated law school with decent grades, but couldn't pass the bar exam. Working as a paralegal for Dennis Bright for 3 years, making $45,000 a year. You live in a studio apartment and drive a 15-year-old Honda Civic. Wesley's jaw tightened. So my wife promised you a share of my fortune. What, 10 million? 20? Enough to change your life forever. Alex leaned forward. But here's what she didn't tell you. Our prenup protects my business assets. Even if she succeeds in having me declared incompetent, she'd get the house, some investments, maybe 2 million total. You're lying. Am I? Did she show you the prenup? Did you read it yourself? Alex saw understanding dawn in Wesley's eyes. She's been playing you, Wesley. She gets revenge on me. You get to be the fall guy when this all comes crashing down. Alex pulled out another document. This is a copy of the prenup. Page 17, Section 4. Read it. Wesley's hand shook as he read. His face went from pale to green. This says, if she's proven to have committed adultery or fraud during the marriage, she gets nothing. Less than nothing. I can sue her for damages. Alex smiled coldly. Congratulations, Wesley. You're about to help the woman you love destroy herself. But she said, she showed me financial statements. Forgeries. She's good at those. Alex leaned back. Now, are you going to tell me what I want to know? Or are you going to go down with her ship? For the next hour, Wesley spilled everything. The plan was elegant in its simplicity and horrifying in its cruelty. Desiree would present the falsified medical records to a judge, claiming Alex was mentally incompetent and had been embezzling from his own company. Ricardo would be framed as his accomplice. With Alex institutionalized and his business in chaos, Desiree would file for divorce and claim half of everything. The hearing is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, Wesley said miserably. She's meeting with her lawyer, your former lawyer, actually. Ross Tate. Alex's blood went cold. What did you say? Ross Tate. She hired him last month. Said he knew all your business secrets, could help her maximize the settlement. Alex felt pieces clicking into place. Ross had been asking strange questions lately, requesting access to files he didn't need, scheduling meetings that got canceled at the last minute. His own lawyer had been bought by his wife. Wesley, I'm going to make you an offer. Help me stop this, and I'll make sure you walk away clean. Keep playing Desiree's game, and I'll destroy you both. What do you want me to do? Exactly what she's expecting. Show up tomorrow, play your part. But when the moment is right, you're going to tell the truth. She'll kill me. No, Alex said, standing to leave. I will. The difference is, if you help me, you'll live long enough to regret betraying me instead of dying for it. As Alex walked to his car, his phone rang. The caller ID made him smile. Ross, working late? Alex, we need to talk. There's been a development in your business accounts. Someone's been moving money. Large amounts. I think you might be getting embezzled. Really? That's terrible. Can you meet me at the office tomorrow morning? Early, of course. 8 a.m. Perfect. Oh, and Ross, bring everything you've prepared for me. I want to see exactly how bad this situation is. Alex ended the call and got into his Mercedes. Tomorrow would be the most important day of his life. By sunset, he would either be destroyed or victorious. But Alexander Whitehead hadn't built an empire by accepting defeat. As he drove home to face his wife one last time, Alex thought about justice, revenge, and the price of betrayal. Desiree, Wesley, and Ross thought they were playing chess with an amateur. They were about to learn they'd been playing with a grandmaster. Chapter 7. The Judas Kiss. Alex arrived at his office at 7:30 a.m. to find Ross Tate already waiting in the parking lot. His former lawyer looked nervous, clutching a briefcase like a shield. Through the office windows, Alex could see Sergio setting up recording equipment. Ross, punctual as always. Alex, I have to tell you, what I've discovered is very serious. We need to involve the authorities immediately. They rode the elevator to Alex's office in silence. Ross kept glancing at his watch, sweat beading on his forehead despite the morning cool. Coffee, Alex offered. No, thanks. Let's get right to business. Ross opened his briefcase with shaking hands. I've been reviewing your business accounts, and I've found evidence of systematic embezzlement. Someone has been moving money to offshore accounts for months. Alex accepted the folder Ross handed him, flipping through pages of bank statements and transaction records. The forgeries were masterful. If he didn't know better, he believed them himself. My God, Alex said, letting shock color his voice. How much? Nearly $3 million. Alex, I hate to ask this, but do you have any memory problems? Confusion, disorientation? Some of these transactions are authorized with your digital signature. Sometimes I feel foggy, dizzy. I thought it was stress from the Henderson project. Ross leaned forward, his practice concern almost convincing. Alex, I think someone has been drugging you. And I think I know who. Who? Your CFO? Ricardo Sampson. Look at these transaction patterns. They all coincide with times he had access to your computer, your accounts, and with his daughter's medical bills. Alex let silence stretch between them, watching Ross construct the frame that would destroy an innocent man's life. What should I do? I've taken the liberty of preparing some documents, Ross said, pulling out another folder. Power of attorney papers, emergency medical decisions, asset protection protocols. If you're being drugged, we need to act quickly to protect your interests. Alex pretended to study the papers. In reality, they were beautifully crafted legal weapons designed to transfer control of his empire to Desiree, while making it look like protective measures. Ross, you've been my lawyer for 8 years. I trust you completely. I won't let you down, Alex. A knock at the door interrupted them. Sergio entered, carrying a coffee tray and wearing the expression of a man delivering bad news. "Mr. Whitehead, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a development. The police are here." Two detectives followed Sergio into the office, a heavy-set man in his 50s and a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s. "Mr. Whitehead, I'm Detective Sam Watts. This is Detective Brandy Raymond. We need to ask you some questions about irregularities in your business accounts." Ross shot to his feet. "Detectives, I'm Mr. Whitehead's attorney. He's been cooperating fully with our internal investigation." "Actually," Detective Raymond said, "we're here about something else. Dr. Timothy Barry came forward yesterday with allegations that Mrs. Whitehead attempted to blackmail him into falsifying medical records." Alex watched Ross's face go white. This wasn't part of the plan. "Furthermore," Detective Watts continued, "we've been investigating a fraud case involving a paralegal named Wesley Wilcox. Mr. Wilcox came to us last night with evidence of a conspiracy to commit fraud." Ross looked like he might vomit. "I don't understand." "It's simple," Alex said, his voice suddenly cold and clear. "Wesley decided he'd rather testify against my wife than go to prison for her." "Alex, what's going on?" Ross stammered. "What's going on, Ross, is that I've known about this conspiracy for weeks. Every meeting, every forged document, every lie." Alex stood, his presence filling the room. "Did you really think I'd built a $50 million company by being naive?" Detective Raymond placed handcuffs on the desk. "Ross Tate, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, legal malpractice, and violation of attorney-client privilege." As they read Ross's rights, Alex's phone buzzed with a text from Desiree. "Something's wrong. Wesley isn't answering his phone. The hearing is in 2 hours." Alex typed back, "Don't worry. Everything is going according to plan." "Detectives," Alex said, "I believe my wife is at the courthouse right now, preparing to present falsified evidence in a competency hearing. You'll want to arrest her before she commits perjury in front of judge." "Already handled," Detective Watts said. "She was taken into custody an hour ago." Alex walked to his office window, looking out at the city he'd helped build. Behind him, he could hear Ross sobbing as they led him away. In a few hours, Desiree would be in a cell, Wesley would be cutting a deal with prosecutors, and Dr. Barry would be cooperating with authorities in exchange for a reduced sentence. "Boss," Sergio appeared at his elbow. "It's over." "No," Alex said quietly. "It's just beginning." Chapter 8. The Reckoning. The courtroom was packed for Desiree's arraignment. Alex sat in the gallery's front row, watching as his wife of 12 years shuffled and wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. She'd lost weight in the 3 days since her arrest, and her usually perfect hair hung limp around her shoulders. When her eyes found his, Alex saw something he'd never seen before in their relationship: fear. Judge Bernice Coyle was a stern woman in her 60s who'd built a reputation for harsh sentences in fraud cases. She reviewed the charges with barely concealed disgust. "Mrs. Whitehead, you're charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted blackmail, forgery, and conspiracy to commit perjury. How do you plead?" Desiree's public defender, a harried-looking man named Tim Barry, no relation to the doctor, whispered urgently in her ear. "Not guilty, Your Honor." Judge Coyle set bail at $500,000, knowing Desiree couldn't raise that amount with her assets frozen. As they led her away, Desiree looked back at Alex one last time. He gave her the same cold smile she'd given him for months. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Alex. He'd prepared for this moment, knowing the story would make headlines. Local businessman uncovers wife's conspiracy. "Mr. Whitehead, how does it feel to know your wife was planning to have you institutionalized?" "Betrayal is never easy," Alex said, his voice steady. "But justice is more important than personal feelings. Will you be filing for divorce?" That process began the moment I learned of her crimes. The truth was more complex. Alex had already filed divorce papers citing adultery and fraud, claims that would leave Desiree with nothing under their prenup. But he'd also filed civil lawsuits seeking damages for the emotional distress, business losses, and reputation damage her conspiracy had caused. By the time the legal system finished with Desiree Whitehead, she'd be bankrupt and facing decades in prison. Wesley Wilcox had taken a plea deal, agreeing to testify against Desiree in exchange for 5 years probation. Clayton Knapp, the private investigator, had flipped so quickly that prosecutors joked he should join the Olympic gymnastics team. Ross Tate was fighting the charges, claiming he'd been deceived by Desiree. But the evidence was overwhelming. Recordings Sergio had made, documents that proved Ross knew exactly what he was doing, and testimony from multiple witnesses. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for next month. Alex would testify about the conspiracy, Dr. Barry would explain the blackmail attempt, and Wesley would detail the plan to destroy Alex's life. But Alex had already moved beyond legal justice. He wanted something more personal. He found Desiree's mother, Maxine Fitzpatrick, at her apartment across town. The elderly woman had aged years in the past week, her face drawn with shame and confusion. "Alexander, I can't believe what she did to you. Mrs. Fitzpatrick, I want you to know that none of this affects how I feel about you. You've been like a mother to me for 12 years. But the children, Emma and Michael, what will happen to them?" Alex had been dreading this conversation. Emma and Michael were staying with his sister while the legal proceedings unfolded. They knew their mother was in trouble, but not the full extent of her crimes. "I'm going to fight for full custody," Alex said gently. "I'll make sure they're taken care of, that they get therapy to help them understand what happened." And Desiree? Desiree made her choices. Now she has to live with the consequences. That evening, Alex sat in his study, looking at a letter that had been delivered by a guard at the county jail. Desiree's handwriting was shakier than usual, but her words were clear. "Alex, I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to understand why I did this. I stopped loving you years ago, but I was trapped. The prenup, the lifestyle, the expectations. I felt like a prisoner in my own life. I know that doesn't excuse what I did, but I need you to know it wasn't just about money. It was about freedom. Please don't let the children hate me. Whatever happens to me, they don't deserve to lose their mother's memory. D." Alex read the letter 3 times, then fed it into a shredder. Freedom. She talked about freedom while planning to destroy him, Ricardo, and Dr. Barry. She talked about being trapped while systematically betraying everyone who trusted her. His phone rang. Sergio's name appeared on the screen. "Boss, I've got news. The prosecutor wants to meet with you tomorrow. They're talking about a plea deal for your wife." "What kind of deal?" 20 years instead of life. She'd have to testify against Ross Tate and forfeit any claim to your assets. Alex thought about it. 20 years meant Desiree would be in her mid-50s when she got out. Emma and Michael would be adults, their lives rebuilt without their mother's toxic influence. "Tell them I'll consider it," Alex said. "But I want something in return." "What?" "I want her to explain to our children exactly what she did and why. I want them to hear the truth from her own mouth." Alex hung up and poured himself a drink. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, each one representing a life, a family, a business. He'd built his empire by understanding that trust was the most valuable currency in the world. Desiree had spent that currency like a fool, and now she was bankrupt in every way that mattered. Chapter 9. Justice Served. 6 months later, Alex stood at the window of his redesigned office, watching construction crews break ground on his latest project, a children's hospital funded partly by the civil settlement he'd won against Desiree. The irony wasn't lost on him. Her betrayal had led to something that would help thousands of families. Emma and Michael were thriving. After months of therapy, they'd accepted that their mother had made terrible choices, but that didn't reflect on them. Emma, now 11, had thrown herself into soccer and school debate team. Michael, 9, was building robots with an engineering kit Alex had bought him. They visited Desiree once a month at the state prison, supervised visits that Alex had fought to arrange despite his own feelings. Whatever she'd done to him, she was still their mother. The trial had been a media sensation. Ross Tate received 12 years for his role in the conspiracy. Wesley Wilcox was serving his probation and working at a legal aid clinic, his dreams of wealth permanently shattered. Clayton Knapp had lost his investigator's license and now worked security at a shopping mall. Dr. Barry had received the lightest sentence, 2 years probation and community service. He'd lost his medical license, but was volunteering at free clinics, try to rebuild some measure of respect. Desiree herself had taken the plea deal, 25 years with possibility of parole in 15. The federal prosecutor had decided to make an example of her case, showing that fraud and conspiracy would be punished to the full extent of the law. Alex's phone buzzed with a text from Sergio, package delivered. Alex smiled. The package was a complete financial audit of Bright and Associates, the law firm that had employed Wesley and failed to detect Ross's ethical violations. By the time Alex's lawyers finished with them, the firm would be bankrupt and its partners would be lucky to avoid criminal charges themselves. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Ricardo Sampson entered, carrying a financial report and wearing a smile that had become common since his promotion to company president. The Henderson project is ahead of schedule and under budget, Ricardo reported. We should clear $8 million in profit. Excellent. Any word on the Houston expansion? They accepted our bid. $12 million contract to build their new municipal complex. Alex nodded, pleased but not surprised. Whitehead Construction's reputation had actually improved after the scandal. Clients respected a man who'd uncovered and stopped corruption in his own organization. Ricardo, I want you to take the lead on Houston. Consider it your project. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say you'll do a good job, which I know you will. After Ricardo left, Alex returned to his window. In the distance, he could see the courthouse where Desiree's trial had taken place. Closer, he could see the park where he'd taken Emma and Michael last weekend, watching them play while trying to rebuild their family from the wreckage of betrayal. His reflection in the window showed a man who'd aged in the past year, but grown stronger. The naive trust that had once made him vulnerable was gone, replaced by hard-won wisdom about human nature. His phone rang. The caller ID showed his sister's number. Alex, the kids want to know if you're coming to dinner Sunday. Wouldn't miss it. What's Emma making? Lasagna. She says it's her specialty now. Alex smiled genuinely for the first time in weeks. Tell her I'll bring dessert. As he prepared to leave the office, Alex thought about the letter Desiree had written him from prison, the one where she'd asked for forgiveness and claimed she'd only wanted freedom. He'd never responded to it. Freedom. She'd sacrificed 12 years of marriage, her children's respect, her future, and her integrity for what she'd called freedom. Now she had all the freedom she could want. The freedom of a prison cell, the freedom of being alone with her choices, the freedom that came with losing everything that had ever mattered. Alex, meanwhile, had discovered a different kind of freedom. The freedom that came from knowing who you could trust. The freedom of building something worth protecting. The freedom of being strong enough to fight for what was right. He thought about calling Desiree, telling her about Emma's lasagna and Michael's robots, about the life they were building without her. But that would be cruel, and Alexander Whitehead wasn't a cruel man. He was simply a man who'd learned that justice, once served, was best enjoyed in silence. As Alex locked his office and headed home to his children, he reflected on the past year. He'd lost a wife but saved his family. He'd been betrayed but emerged stronger. He'd faced destruction but built something better from the ashes. The warning note that had started it all, crumpled and desperate, slipped to him by a brave nurse, had saved his life in ways he couldn't have imagined. Sometimes the smallest acts of courage created the biggest changes. And sometimes, Alex thought as he drove toward home and the future he'd fought to protect, the best revenge was simply refusing to be destroyed. The city lights glittered around him, each one a reminder that life continued, that new stories were beginning even as old ones ended. Alexander Whitehead had finished one chapter of his life and was ready to begin writing the next. This time, he'd be more careful about who he trusted with the pen. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.